Do you think your brother-in-law is cheating?" Looking at my sister-in-law's sneering smile, everything clicked. So, my husband's mistress is... But what I didn't expect was what happened next. My name is Marissa, a city slicker by birth, but at 45, I find myself increasingly longing for the slow life of the countryside. Retirement in the countryside, maybe with a garden. Sounds nice. The only countryside I've ever been to is my in-laws. Since marrying, I've been going back for long summer vacations and Christmas, and Thanksgiving if we can manage. It's a long trip, but my in-laws are so kind that I always look forward to seeing them. However, there was a time when these visits became a source of pain. It was 5 years into my marriage to Kevin. I was in my 30s. As usual during the summer break, we were dining with Kevin's family. Yara, my brother-in-law's wife, who was also visiting, asked, "By the way, don't you and Kevin plan on having kids?" Her words froze me. Kevin and I hadn't been blessed with children yet. Yara and my brother-in-law Adam, both the same age, had been dating since college and married when she got pregnant. They were childhood sweethearts, and both families supported their student marriage. By this time, they already had 3 children, and Yara was pregnant with a 4th. "Kids are great, the more the merrier. Siblings are just adorable." Yeah, not knowing how to respond, I could only smile kindly. I might be overthinking it, but at the time, I was troubled by our inability to conceive. I thought it was natural for Adam and Yara, being married first, to have children. But now I see it's not a given. Years have passed, and I still haven't conceived. Maybe Yara didn't mean any harm, but such conversations had been happening since right after I got married. So much so, I wondered if she'd forgotten she'd asked before. Kristen, my mother-in-law, seemed to notice my feelings and smoothly change the topic. Until now, Yara would follow suit, but this year was different. It happened when Yara and I were alone in the kitchen. "Do you dislike children, Marissa?" "What? Why?" I was surprised by her question. I thought I was affectionate enough with Yara's kids, but maybe I did something wrong? "Well, if you liked kids, wouldn't you have them by now?" "What?" "You know, children are a gift from heaven. They choose their moms, like, I want to be born to this mommy. If you still haven't conceived, maybe you dislike children." That's not... Her words, though unrealistic, truly shocked me. Yes, people say that, and by that logic, it means no child wants to be born to me. I know it's irrational, I know it's in my head, but at that moment, it hurt like a thorn in my heart. Why can't we conceive? We've even undergone medical checks, enduring the embarrassment, but nothing was wrong. So why? I couldn't find the words to answer Yara. You do like kids, but Marissa, you're over 30. If you take it easy, you might not be able to have them. Hurry up, give this little one a cousin." Yara smiled, rubbing her belly, her smile seemingly tinged with spite. I had seen online discussions about pregnancy one-upmanship against the childless. Yara's behavior fit the description, but I wanted to believe she meant no harm. Otherwise, I'd feel even more miserable as someone being one-upped. That winter, on Christmas Eve, Kevin and I returned to his family home again. Adam and Yara, who lived nearby, were already there, her belly noticeably larger. Honestly, since last summer's vacation, I've been dreading seeing Yara. But I decided to let bygones be bygones and enjoy this visit. Just keep switching gears. "Marissa, any progress with having kids?" Every time we were alone, she would ask this, and my heart sank. But perhaps I'm being overly sensitive. I tried to respond without reading too much into it. "Well, it's tough. We're trying. Haven't you considered treatment? It's not like we have health issues, and treatments are so expensive without guaranteed results. If there are no health issues and you're over 30, not being able to conceive is abnormal." Her words felt like a thick stake piercing my heart. Don't you know older mothers risk having children with diseases? It'd be pitiful if such a child was born, but I guess childless people can't understand that. Becoming a mom is wonderful. It makes you a better person. But if you can't, you should divorce Kevin. It's only fair to him, right? Speechless, I excused myself with a lie about a stomachache and left. I cried secretly in the bathroom, worried my red eyes would betray me to Kevin and his family. Fortunately, no one seemed to notice. Even Yara, laughing cheerfully, asked if my stomach was okay. Infuriating. I've been struggling with not being able to conceive, and I've tried not to burden Kevin with it. I'm troubled by not being able to have children. I wouldn't want to hear that myself. I was at a loss. Voicing this worry was too painful. That night, everyone asleep, I went downstairs for water and saw a light in the living room. Peering in, there was Yara on her mobile phone. It struck me as odd. She hadn't gotten any water, just sitting there alone. She had gone to bed first, saying she was sleepy. If I can't sleep and I have to use my mobile phone, I might as well be in the same room as my husband. Why come to the living room to use her phone? I couldn't help but think of infidelity, like in those dramas. Stop it, I told myself. Then Yara left her phone on the table, heading to the bathroom. I unintentionally hid, feeling like witness to infidelity. That's ridiculous. As I went for water, I passed Yara's phone and saw a new message. Kevin. She had just received it, apparently chatting with someone named Kevin. My mind raced. My Kevin? They were childhood friends, but surely not. Troubled, I finished my water and returned to the bedroom. Kevin was awake. He said my noise woke him, but was that true? I couldn't sleep that night, and we returned home in the morning. Back home, Kevin showed no signs of infidelity, but my doubts lingered. Then, the following February, we were to celebrate Kristen's 60th birthday at my in-laws. I felt more anxious than ever. Was Kevin cheating with Yara? I had to find out this visit. I must stay strong, no matter what. Then, predictably, Marissa, how's the baby making going? Her persistence was exhausting. I slowly realized Yara had always found a way to be alone with me. Whether I was in the kitchen or helping Kristen clean, she'd join under the guise of helping just to get me alone. I tried to convince myself I was overthinking, but it was clear this was a case of pregnancy one-upmanship. As usual, but I'm leaving it to nature, I replied with a smile, which briefly twisted Yara's lips into a sneer. Really? Still no luck. How many years have you been trying? Isn't that alarming? I thought I'd hear some good news by now. Maybe you're not doing it enough. Normal couples conceive naturally. Maybe Kevin's fed up with an infertile woman and cheating on you. Her words were painfully timely considering my recent suspicions about Kevin and Yara. The doubt I harbored about Kevin grew. I wanted to believe Kevin wouldn't do such a thing. Yet tears welled up, despite my resolve. Don't cry. Hold it together. At that moment, when I was completely clutching the hem of my dress to contain my tears, "You've shown your true colors. Get out," Kevin said, grabbing Yara's wrist. His parents arrived, saying, "This is unbearable. Leave, Yara." Huh? I was confused by what was happening. I heard everything. Quite bold of you to say such things to my wife, Yara. Kevin's tone was gentle, but his face showed clear anger. His parents glared at Yara, and I noticed Adam was there too. Why should I leave? I'm the one who bore children of this family's blood. If I leave, Kristen and Tristan won't see their grandchildren. Is that okay? Yara retorted defiantly. That's even if they're Adam's kids. Yara visibly panicked. What do you mean? You've been cheating on Adam, Tristan accused. What proof do you have to say that? Yara countered. Kevin sighed. You've been unfaithful, right? We've already investigated. Huh? Kevin saying this? I was shocked. I had just suspected Yara's affair was with Kevin. I blurted out, "You're not Yara's affair partner?" Kevin looked genuinely surprised. What? Why would you think that? I've only ever been committed to you. You thought my love was lacking because I leave my socks inside out, even after you told me not to? Confusion painted Kevin's face while his parents laughed. How did it come to this? Well, I accidentally saw a message from Kevin on Yara's phone, and you were awake at that time, I explained, near tears. Kevin face-palmed. Someone else with my name. His parents chuckled. He only has eyes for you. It's not me. There will never be anyone but you for me, I promise, Kevin reassured, gently stroking my head. It seemed my fears about Kevin and Yara's affair were just a misunderstanding. Of course, without solid evidence, I wasn't fully convinced. But I was relieved to know the truth. Adam started to explain the situation, which began with Yara's pregnancy. Adam had always believed the child was his, but he grew suspicious when Yara rarely showed him the ultrasound. And just before our Christmas Eve visit, after searching his house, Adam found an ultrasound photo. It turned out that the baby was conceived while he was away on a business trip, convincing him of his wife's infidelity. He considered immediate divorce, but instead, wanting desperately to identify the other man, he enlisted the help of Kevin and his parents to monitor Yara's activities. However, as the birth neared and the man's identity remained unknown, Adam, frustrated, planned to confront Yara with the help of his family and Kevin, determined to force the truth out of her. It was then I accidentally blurted out about my pregnancy, prompting everyone to intervene at that moment. Should have been smarter in cornering Yara, but it's all a mess now. Wish I'd consulted Marissa about the affair. Adam laughed, but I was touched that the family wanted to protect me from Yara's harsh words. In the midst of this, Kevin said, Wait, Marissa knew the name? Great catch. So who is this Kevin, Yara? Glaring at her. Adam and Kevin's parents thought the same. Yet Yara only responded with, I didn't cheat, and this baby is Adam's, raising her voice. Recalling, I suddenly remembered a face. Ah, could it be Kevin, your friend? The one from high school who came to our wedding? What? Yara lost her words in shock, and everyone else seemed to remember, exclaiming in realization. If it's that Kevin, can't you just call him? He said he lives around here, right? I suggested. Yara grabbed my hand, pale and trembling. No, don't call him. Her face was pale and her hands were shaking a little. Yara, if you hate it that much, does that mean that's the person you're cheating on with? It is. When Yara stammers, Kevin says, if you don't answer properly, I'll call Kevin. Perhaps because everyone was creating an unforgiving atmosphere, Yara weakly confessed, That's right, as if thinking about it. Yara says she met Kevin at our wedding. Seems they were acquaintances through Kevin being a friend of hers. From there, Yara, feeling a bit stale in her own marriage, started venting her domestic frustrations to Kevin as a way to de-stress. Well, in short, their initial relationship was just as venting partners. But as it turns out, Yara had harbored feelings for Kevin for quite some time. She had fallen head over heels for the grown-up Kevin. Despite her occasional hints, she went unnoticed at first, maybe due to her being married or just not being recognized, so they didn't contact each other much and their friendship went unnoticed by Adam. However, things changed after they went out for drinks together while Adam was on a business trip. That's when she got pregnant with their child. Also, the reason behind her overly persistent pregnancy one-upmanship with me became clear. Apparently, shortly after the wedding, Kevin casually said to Yara, Your sister-in-law is pretty, isn't she? For Kevin, it was just a throwaway remark. He wouldn't have thought of getting involved with a friend's wife. But for Yara, who liked him, these words were incredibly humiliating. Initially, she thought that if she had a child, Kevin would see me as a respectable auntie, not just a pretty woman. That's why she kept asking me if I was pregnant, hoping we would have a kid. Thinking back, her initial queries were indeed light, just asking, any plans for kids? But as no child came between us and I remained largely unchanged in appearance and physique, she grew jealous of me as a woman. She said, If Marissa stays beautiful, Kevin might meet her somewhere and fall for her. What's so good about that infertile woman, who's inferior to both me as a woman and a being? I could bear his child. Well, that's just lashing out in every sense. A real hassle. From my perspective, I'm married and love my Kevin, so there's absolutely no chance of anything happening between the other Kevin and me. But for Yara, who fell in love with someone else despite being married, it seemed plausible. Why? If you love Kevin, why did you continue this marriage? Adam asked Yara sternly. I did love you at first, but feelings can't be controlled. It couldn't be helped. Yara's defense sounded like a maiden in love, but wasn't really an answer. No one understood Yara's feelings with comments like, "That happens." Yara defiantly said, "It's fine, right? I'll properly divorce and take care of the child." It's not about that. Didn't you think about Adam or the kids when you cheated? You've had 3 kids, yet you can't understand the feelings of children, let alone people. Yara, who had earlier bluntly told me you wouldn't understand kids' feelings since you haven't had any, realized this was my way of getting back at her and turned red with anger. What's the deal? Even though Marissa hasn't had kids, she's cherished by Kevin and our in-laws. It makes no sense. I've given birth to the heirs for this family. Why am I the one being ousted? It's not my fault this happened. It's the environment and all of you to blame. Yara, crying and spouting her irrational theories, left Adam head in hands, their parents showing disgust and Kevin sighing. True, you might not be able to control romantic feelings, but remember, he who runs after 2 hares will catch neither. Liking both means you don't care about either. I spoke calmly, and Kristen snuggled up next to me saying, "That's so true. Sorry, Marissa, for not realizing you were being treated that way by Yara about the pregnancy. When I came in and heard Yara's words, I was horrified as a woman." It's understandable that she didn't notice. The pain of those who haven't conceived is hard to understand without experiencing it, especially since in front of the in-laws it was just about any plans for the kids. It's a topic that could even be asked at work, so it's easy to overlook if you don't think about it. But Kristen's attempt to empathize with me in her own way without understanding really touched my heart. She's truly a warm person. If you say you're not at fault, then let's get DNA tests for all the kids. If you refuse, we divorce, and even if you agree, I'll only take my children and divorce you, Adam said sternly. Yara exclaimed, "No way!" But realizing she had no more allies given everyone's cold glances, she meekly said, "Okay, I'm sorry." Afterward, a DNA test, taken just to be sure, revealed that all the children except for the one in her belly were Adam's, leading to their divorce and Adam living with the children. Kevin initially planned to marry Yara, taking responsibility, but his parents strongly opposed it. You can't just be happy after causing suffering to a family and child, they said in a compelling argument, eventually leading Yara to become a single mother. Yara and Kevin had agreed to handle Adam's hefty compensation claims together, but with their split, Yara found herself unable to live in their shared home, burdened with high alimony, child support, and a baby to care for. Yara was disowned by her own family, being told not to return home, shamed. I had told Yara, "He who runs after 2 hares will catch neither," and it seems it came true. Meanwhile, Adam moved in with his in-laws, raising his 3 children noisily yet happily. I'm always ready to help in times of need. As for us, at 38, when we thought it was impossible, we miraculously conceived and had a girl. It was probably our first and last child, given our age and energy. When I found out I was pregnant, I was overjoyed, feeling like it was a child who wanted to be born to us. Realizing that the hurt Yara had caused lingered until then, it vanished in an instant. I'm somewhat shy, just like my daughter, so park debuts and neighborhood friendships were hard, but all of it was enjoyable. I realized how mothers can push through anything for their children. Kevin, since the day he declared, "I'll cherish you more than ever to never be doubted again," has been incredibly sweet to me. Believe it or not, we still date every weekend at this age. Well, it might not be called a date now with a child. He's a loving husband who balances family and couple time, leaving us without worries. I'm truly blessed. I hope these days continue forever.
You, a high school dropout and don't have a job, have no right to be here anymore. Get out.
On a cold winter night, with snow piling up, I was thrown out of the house barefoot by my brother and his wife, as if I were an abandoned cat. I can never forgive this humiliation. Even if I lack formal education, a healthy body, and financial resources, I possess the wealth of mental strength. I will use this strength to someday make them experience the shame they made me feel today. My name is Lisa, a 48-year-old who finds the ultimate bliss in soaking in the bath late at night to relieve the fatigue of work. Especially now, as autumn deepens and the air outside feels brisk, the bath is exceptionally comforting. In my busy past, I could not have imagined having such luxurious time. It was when I was in my mid-20s. My brother John, 5 years my senior, had started his own business. Capitalizing on his interest in environmental issues, he founded a company that reprocessed recyclable plastics, driftwood washed ashore, and sea glass found on the beaches to create unique accessories and interior products. His business area had little competition, which was fortunate, and John's business plan was a resounding success, leading his company to grow rapidly. However, in contrast to this success, it seemed that his humanity and generosity shrank day by day. While he could make money, he was very stingy about spending it.
The only time you really enjoy money is when you see it growing.
My brother's thriftiness eventually lost all moderation, and his behavior quickly became stingy beyond normal bounds. Our family consisted of just my mother and me. Meanwhile, my brother lived alone, not far from us. However, his obsession with saving money brought him back to our parents' home every Friday night to stay until Sunday morning. For him, this was a calculated move to save on food and utility bills. Living close enough to not need transportation, he saw it as a way to completely cut weekend expenses. Yet, there was no expectation of him contributing to household finances. He did not offer a penny of support. My mother and I were powerless against such behavior. The reason was that my mother, who raised us single-handedly, was now nearly immobile due to early onset Alzheimer's. With my hands full caring for her and her fading consciousness, there was more than enough room for my brother to impose. Seizing this opportunity, he would boldly take money from my purse, buy whatever food he fancied, and eat as much as he wanted. When I got angry and scolded him, saying, "This can't go on."
If you go against me, how do you plan to support yourself?
The reason my brother could say such a thing is because I was diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune disease after graduating from middle school. With proper medication and a calm lifestyle, I can live a life that seems no different from anyone else's on the surface. However, any slight disruption in my daily routine can bring on a wave of illness, leading to hospitalization. With my unstable health, I have no choice but to rely on my brother in times of crisis. Since middle school, I've been in and out of hospitals, unable to continue my education and ultimately settling for a middle school level of education. I've managed to find employment, but my income is far from ample. As an adult, my condition has stabilized somewhat, and I can continue working, but the risk of sudden health deterioration always looms. Therefore, I prioritize saving as much as possible on living expenses and slowly increasing my savings for the future. On the other hand, as if to disrupt my stringent savings regimen, my brother freely takes money from my meager purse to buy the food he needs. I don't even have the right to object. Without financial leeway, an academic background, or a healthy body, I had no choice but to follow my brother's wishes. One day, I received a sudden marriage announcement from my brother. I was informed about the fact after everything had already taken place. That's my brother's way. I couldn't predict what kind of partner such a self-centered brother would choose. I was filled with nothing but anxiety. Indeed, I hoped that whoever my brother chose would be someone with kindness in their heart. However, on one Friday evening, the woman my brother brought home was Layla, who, while appearing innocent on the outside, had a personality that seemed twice as self-centered as my brother's. She worked as a secretary in the company he ran. Given their positions as president and secretary, I assumed they had a decent income. Yet, despite such circumstances, they began visiting not only on weekends, but also frequently on weekdays. They would enter the house without hesitation using their own keys, even while I was away at work. Previously, their routine had been meals at home and the occasional overnight stay, but my sister-in-law started a new routine. It involved bringing their dirty laundry to our house.
This way, we can save on the water bill.
For some reason, the chore of taking care of this laundry was imposed on me by her as my burden. They would come back when the laundry was dry to exchange what they brought last time for new dirty laundry to take back. Moreover, their actions went beyond mere thriftiness, targeting times I was away to take spare toothbrushes and, in the worst cases, using a cooler box to take away food I had stocked up on blatant acts of theft. Because of this situation, I informed the caregiver who looks after my mother while I work that they should send my brother and his wife away if they visit, but I'm not sure if this will truly keep us safe. I tried to convey the gravity of my situation to the care provider with all my heart, yet the response I received was unexpected. They replied in a bureaucratic tone, "We apologize, but this issue goes beyond the scope of our services. We ask that you resolve this within your family." They also added that they cannot predict what actions my brother and his wife might take if confronted. The caregiving service I had relied on was unique in the area for its cost-effectiveness, and being seen as an unpleasant client could lead to a very difficult situation for me. The thought of changing the locks crossed my mind as an extreme measure, but this could also increase the risk of losing any assistance my brother might be able to provide. The fear of having no family to rely on in an emergency weighed heavily on my heart. I was also tormented by financial pressures, and it was clear that if the current situation continued, my carefully saved funds would gradually dwindle. Then, one day, reaching the limits of my patience, I made a direct request to my brother. "Couldn't you help with mom's care once in a while? It would save on the cost of caregiving services." But my plea was like air to my brother. He remained indifferent, and one day out of the blue, he declared,
Actually, today we ended our apartment lease. We're planning to move in here and live together from now on.
My brother and his wife moved into my house as if it were their place, without any warning. Their few belongings were the only luggage they brought. Since then, my nights have been fragmented. Lack of sleep became the norm, fatigue increased, and health issues that were once under control began to resurface. Even with a fever, I cannot afford to take a day off work. I need to save my precious paid leave for any sudden emergencies. However, my brother and his wife continued to act in their own interest, ignoring my ill health, expecting me to do the grocery shopping and all household chores while running a high fever, without contributing anything to the household expenses. I kept wondering, how can I maintain a good relationship with my blood-related brother and gently get them out of the house? Sadly, our mother passed away. What started as a trivial cold gradually worsened, and she quietly left this world in the hospital. The fact that I couldn't be there to care for her at home when she passed remains a deep scar in my heart. I barely remember anything that happened after. While not in good health myself, I ran a fever throughout my mother's funeral, which exacerbated my chronic condition. As a result, I had to undergo massive steroid treatment. Fortunately, I avoided hospitalization, but the strong side effects significantly weakened my immune system. Consequently, the doctor ordered me to avoid contact with the outside world and rest at home for a while. When I explained my situation to my workplace, my boss expressed sympathy but ultimately said,
"I understand it's tough, but we can't just sit on our hands. You have no choice but to resign."
Certainly, I had taken time off multiple times for my mother's care, causing inconvenience to the company. Regrettably, I had no choice but to accept their proposal, submitted my resignation, and began my convalescence at home. When I conveyed this fact to my brother,
Why do you have to quit your job? You should have just taken a leave of absence."
What? Lisa is quitting her job? Then what's going to happen to our financial situation? Who's going to support the household expenses now?
a leave of absence wasn't approved by the company. For now, I need to rest at home. And since you two are living in this house too, I expect you to contribute properly to the living expenses. It's just unfair for me to continue bearing the burden alone. I pleaded, but my brother and his wife exchanged looks and pursed their lips in discontent.
I don't like that idea.
What? What does that mean? I stood dumbfounded at my brother's cold refusal to contribute to the household. John revealed his calculating reason for moving into my house.
Actually, The main reason we moved into this house was to enjoy the financial benefits. Living here means we can save on household expenses and put that money into savings. But if we can't save on living expenses anymore, then there's no point in you staying here. You just become a nuisance of a sister. Layla, you feel the same, right?
Layla nodded while expressing a slight complaint.
That's right, as John says. However, I'd like to avoid looking for a new apartment again and paying a high rent. I want to minimize such expenses as much as possible now.
You see, because this house has been built for quite some time, it may look old, but the rent is much more affordable compared to a condominium.
Layla asked, seemingly intrigued.
Oh, really? But how would our overall financial situation change if we start contributing to the living expenses?
John said thoughtfully.
Right now, the household expenses are practically nothing. If we start chipping in, it will definitely increase our expenses, but it should still be way less of a burden than before.
After some thought, Layla turned her attention to my job situation.
Hey, Lisa, how long are you planning to stay off work?
While screaming inside, I was appalled that they were only interested in money. Currently, I hadn't set a specific date to return. I'm prioritizing my recovery, and then I'll think about when to start working again. To my response, my sister-in-law fell silent, as if deep in thought. Then, the next move Layla suggested was direct and shameless.
Hey, John, wouldn't the easiest and quickest solution be to just take over this house?
John continued thoughtfully.
If Lisa continues to be unable to work, we'd end up having to take care of her living expenses. If we're going to shoulder all the costs of living, we might end up at a loss.
Layla tilted her head while responding.
Yeah, having her here could become a burden, couldn't it?
John raised his voice as if making a decision.
Listen, it's settled. Someone who hasn't graduated from school and doesn't have a job should leave this place.
John grabbed my collar, and I spoke in a faint, gentle voice. Are you seriously saying that? John replied as if it was obvious.
Of course. Considering the economic burden, it's far more rational for just the two of us to live here. You're just an obstacle to us now.
I was feeling indignant, retorted. This is my house, and you two just barged in. How can you say that to me? John waved his hand in exasperation.
Enough. So noisy. Is an apology what you want? Isn't that enough? Now, please leave.
Sorry about this, Lisa dear.
I felt my brother and his wife, without any hesitation, as if it were a mere everyday scene, push Lisa out from the large living room window into the garden. John, with a casual wave of his hand as if saying farewell to a guest, carelessly remarked,
Well, take care then.
What I saw was my brother John indifferently tossing my bag packed with my belongings. Even as I pleaded from outside the window, Stop. Let me in. He ignored my words and coldly locked the window. He even drew the curtains, as if to douse the sibling bond with cold water, isolating me from the outside world. My knocks on the window glass were continuously ignored, and I was cast out of my home barefoot into the biting cold. With nowhere to go and no financial support, that night and the following nights became a mere search for a place to belong, eventually leading me to take shelter at a train station platform. That place, with its lights constantly on, served as a temporary refuge with a roof over my head. During the day, I would pick up free job magazines in search of work, pondering my next move. Finally, I managed to find a job with accommodation included. Despite needing rest and recovery, I was in a harsh reality where such options were no longer available, and I had to hide my physical condition to work. It was in this context that I started working on a farm. The job was physically demanding, but without time to look for work, I ended up at this farm, which allowed me to live in. This experience at the farm became a significant turning point in my life. The family running the farm was kind and understanding, and they quickly became concerned about my health. I had thought that physically demanding work wasn't suitable for me, but most of the tasks were concentrated in the morning, allowing me to balance focus. I had thought that physically demanding work wasn't suitable for me, but most of the tasks were concentrated in the morning, allowing me to balance focus and rest efficiently. I made sure to take proper breaks in the afternoon and to rest early in the evening, so it wouldn't interfere with my duties the next day. Looking back, I was caught between caring for my mother and work, and also had to take on extra tasks for my brother and his wife. Compared to that, life working on the farm felt like paradise. Working in agriculture made me realize how much of the vegetables, skins, and excess parts I used to throw away when cooking. However, by utilizing these parts for dishes like pickles or even as tea ingredients, I discovered value in what was supposed to be discarded. This new insight led to the idea, what if we reprocess these supposed waste parts and sell them? When I brought this idea to the couple managing the farm, they saw it as a vision ahead of its time and showed interest in this then novel approach, suggesting, if we can make processed goods from the crops we're going to discard, we'd definitely like you to utilize those resources. This method was essentially an advanced concept of reducing food loss, which meant using the surplus produced by our farm and eventually sending it to the market as a product. Many agreed that this could be an interesting venture, and valuing their momentum, I immediately made the most of the wide network of the farm owners to start learning the ropes of business management. It had been 3 years since I left my family and was kicked out of my brother's house, and I was standing at a new stage in life at the age of 30. Over the next 7 years, my startup, born from the idea of reusing agricultural waste, secured a solid position and grew to an annual turnover exceeding $2 billion. Having focused early on the social issue of food loss and providing a solution had yielded good results, leading to increased features in media such as television and radio. A decade after living with my brother, it was an unexpected twist of fate that we siblings would be involved in similar businesses. I have complex feelings about this, but I am genuinely pleased that my own company has grown and been well received by many people. Being able to surround myself with capable employees in my own company, I cherish the happiness of being able to work efficiently and healthily alongside them. Amidst these fulfilling days, a local TV station suddenly decided to feature my company. I couldn't contain my excitement and went to the studio. After the recording finished and as I was about to leave my seat, I heard a familiar voice saying, "Long time no see." It was my brother, whom I hadn't seen for a long time.
To tell you the truth, next week this program will feature my company. I was being interviewed in the next studio. When I heard you were here, I thought I'd come see your face. It's not often we get to meet, so I'd be happy if you showed some gratitude.
Standing beside the confidently speaking brother, my sister-in-law stood quietly with a calm smile. The show staff, realizing we were siblings, came up with a suggestion.
We never expected the two of you to be siblings. If you both appeared in next week's feature, it might be very interesting content for the viewers.
They offered with interest. Not having anticipated my brother's presence at all, I felt quite shaken inside. Should I take this coincidence as some sort of fate? "Excuse me, may I ask your name?" With an expressionless face and a puzzled tilt of my head, my brother awaited an answer, unable to hide his confusion. "I'm sorry, have we met before?"
You can't be serious, Lisa. What kind of joke is that?
Actually, about 10 years ago, I lost my memory due to severe stress. And I was told by the staff that you are my brother, but there's no such information left in my memory. May I take some time to confirm a few things?
Yes, of course.
Finding it a bit hard to believe that you didn't know about my amnesia. If we're really siblings, you would know such an important thing. Could it be that we had a strained relationship before? After a pause, John began to speak slowly.
We siblings were actually bound by a very deep connection. We grew up together and spent countless days together.
I showed a flicker of hesitation, but suppressed it quickly, responding as if weighing my options, unaffected by my surroundings. Then, why are we leading separate lives now despite being siblings?
That's because I started a new life when I got married.
I continued to press on. Actually, I have a habit of writing a diary. In it, the first entry is an incident where I was expelled from our home barefoot on a snowy day. John showed a moment of surprise. Lisa went on. Does that surprise come from some recollection? What happened between us, who were once close, on that snowy night? Was it part of some incident? John hesitantly replied.
No, that's not it.
The truth is, Lisa revealed calmly. A couple claiming to be John and Layla suddenly barged into my house where I was taking care of our mother and ended up expelling me from the home. At that, without changing my expression, as if just confirming, I posed the question, and the surrounding staff raised voices of surprise and question. At that moment, the president named John and his wife, Layla, who were listening to my story, sensed they were the focus of the discussion and paled. After that couple invaded my home, the daily stress accumulated, my health deteriorated, and I had to resign from my job. I was told that an extra mouth to feed had been added and was driven out of my place. If what's written in the diary is true, it would be an incredibly cruel treatment, and I spoke with the pain in my heart. Additionally, the diary says that the couple contributed not a penny to the household, resulting in me alone supporting the living expenses for two and being burdened with all the housework. Who are these people supposed to be? Living with others is unthinkable to me, but I can't tell if these fragments of memory are correct. Do you have any idea about this, brother? As I posed this question, the staff around us were already looking at the couple with a chill in their eyes, and the atmosphere toward them had become even colder.
Maybe the shock of being kicked out caused her amnesia.
Someone suggested, making it difficult to deny. However, I felt a touch of satisfaction in this situation. The couple seemed frozen, not knowing what to do next, and I was smirking inwardly at their confusion. That's right, show me that troubled look. As if to shatter the tension, the director intervened with a strong tone.
What in the world is going on here?
He exclaimed, his voice rasping across every corner of the studio. As I reflexively looked in his direction, a cameraman was repeatedly muttering apologies, and the air around us grew tense. Meanwhile, other staff members rushed to the scene, bustling around the cameraman to manage the situation. Eventually, one of the staff returned to us and explained with a serious expression.
It seems we forgot to switch the camera off, and the whole conversation was broadcasted live.
In this unexpected event, I felt as if there was a hidden blessing for me. At that moment, my brother John couldn't hide his anger and raised his voice.
What are you doing?
My sister-in-law Layla also showed her anger openly.
How are you going to fix this situation? Tell me.
She demanded of me. Sensing the reason for the couple's anger, the staff began to whisper among themselves.
If you're so angry, then, did you really kick your sister out of the house? This might be the cause of her memory loss.
With no room left for excuses, John, driven into a corner, became increasingly agitated, scratching his head while exclaiming,
This is all your fault.
Despite my confusion, I asked, why am I to blame? John raised his voice even more.
You should understand.
Could you please explain the specific situation? When I asked, John stopped dead in his tracks, as if rooted to the spot. If he tried to explain about the extent of my memory, he would have to confront the inevitable truth of his own mistakes. Layla, deeply aware of the significance of this pivotal moment, hurried to John's side and, with urgency, implored,
Please stop talking anymore. It could greatly damage our social standing.
Following his wife's fervent plea, John muttered in a barely audible voice,
I have no choice but to say that I remember nothing about this matter.
And with that, he walked away. Soon after, the day's events were detailed in a weekly magazine article. When the press came to me seeking the truth, I strategically responded consistently with I don't remember. I expected them to contradict me by saying such facts didn't exist. The ambiguity of John's answers led to suspicions of potentially inappropriate behavior, which in turn caused him to lose credibility in society. He became known as an obscure manager who wasn't averse to cover-ups, which negatively impacted his image. This directly affected the company's overall image. The once celebrated young charismatic president's reputation became a thing of the past, and the company's performance began a rapid decline. In contrast, I was attributed with a positive image of overcoming difficulties to achieve great success, which contributed significantly to my economic benefit. 2 years passed, and it was then that my brother stepped down from the management of his company. His presence was seen as directly linked to the company's negative image, leading to his resignation in a form of demotion by the vice president. Behind this, I heard rumors of a scheme by a faction within the company aiming to topple my brother. Struggling with ongoing deficits and payroll difficulties, he eventually had to dip into his savings, which he had been reluctant to use. Forced to leave the company, my brother and his wife came to me, humbled, asking for employment, but I declined, stating, I do not recall any past events concerning you, and currently we are in the midst of reducing personnel costs as part of cost-cutting measures. Though I didn't tell them, young talents who had walked through the doors of my company became part of the team, totaling 15 new employees. I have consistently shown no reaction to any contact with my brother, intentionally ignoring him. Although I once feared being abandoned by him, I am now free from such anxiety. Surrounded by trustworthy colleagues, having married, and after a long period of infertility treatments, blessed with a child, my new family supports my life. No matter what shadow my brother may cast in the future, I will not be afraid. If you live earnestly, heaven will watch and reward you in time. This old saying, taught by my mother in my childhood, is now proven in my reality. It was the warm encounters with people that lifted me out of my plight, likely guided by heaven's hand. I will continue to walk an honest and upright path, honoring my mother's teachings, and strive to become a wonderful mother, a figure my child can speak of with pride.